Okay, guys, welcome to another video. I did promise you some new content that isn't live stream because I do other things apart from live stream. Anyway, Del, yeah, you know the viewers, you know Delboy. Yeah, I've been quite quiet this week from a video point of view, but I've actually got I think 3 or 4 videos kind of partially made, and I have to say this video tonight. I said to Dale, right, this is what I need you to do, and he done all his homework and he got everything sent to me, and I thought I'll do it tomorrow night, which was last night. Fucking hell, it's taken me. I was up to about 1 o'clock in the morning doing this, and then I was having to edit them tonight as well. And then I don't know if I don't know what software you use, but sometimes if you've got like a video on the I don't know on like the track a wee video, it'll record the video for that, but sometimes you maybe got a wee bit of video which is over there and you forget to delete it, and of course it records the 10 minutes of video, and then you've got 20 minutes of black screen, and then you've got a 5-second little outro.
Yeah.
Like, why is that video 30 minutes long? It should only be 3 minutes, and it's because there's a big black. But anyway, I digress. Now, if you've watched this channel before, you'll know I'm a massive Commodore 64 fan, and I know Dell is as well. Now, a big part of the C64, in fact, it's probably one of the parts that keeps the 64 alive, was its ability to do music. I mean, you don't need me or Dell to tell you there's some absolutely phenomenal tunes that came out back in the day. There's still people putting out modern music or writing for the C64. So the C64, and probably slightly less so the Amiga, Atari ST, etc., they all get a lot of recognition for the music, quite rightly so. But arcade games, people talk about arcade games and oh, it's a great game, it's got great graphics. Not many people really think about the music. Um, yeah, there's yes, oh, that's a nice piece of music. So what I tasked Dell to do, I says, I want you to go away and I want you to come up with, no, I wouldn't say you're 10. I mean, perhaps they are. Come up with 10 arcade games that have got some good music in it. Are they, you've picked 10. Are they in any particular order at all, Dale?
Well, I actually came up with more than 10, but I thought really what most people are interested in is the top 5, and then the other 5, because I chose 10 in the end, I put as honorary mentions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they were ones that I can't really put this as 7th because it's as good as the 6th one, but it's not in my top 5, so I'll just call it an honorary mention. So really the last 10, the first, because we're going to go from 10 to 1, I take it, is that right?
Yeah, we'll go back. I mean, what I did was when you sent me you did, by the way, I've I hate Windows 10 because I've got a folder called games music, and then I've got a subfolder called Dell, and then in said subfolder is 10 video files, and sometimes I've been moving them about, and sometimes it goes to like thumbnail, and I'm like, no,
Yeah,
I'm trying my best to kind of cover the screen and put it to detail. So there is one game that I spotted, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, because the one thing is that neither of us know what we've chosen.
What each we want. I always think when you do these kind of videos, it's always nice to have a kind of element of surprise. I'll pretty much guarantee. Well, in fact, I can guarantee there is one. The one that I spotted is one of mine. But anyway, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter because, and if you pick it, well, unless it's the same tune, then we'll maybe not play it. You know what? Fuck it, we'll play it twice. Because if you think it's good,
because we both like it, so there we go.
It deserves to get a second showing. Now, so what we've done is, and there's a reason for this. At first, I said to Dale, "Can you record? Play a bit of the tune for a couple of minutes." I mean, there's a couple of mine that last 3 minutes. There's a couple of mine that last 10 seconds, but it doesn't matter. The ones that last 10 seconds I've played twice just so we can get a feel for it. I said to Dale, record the tune with a bit of footage, And what he didn't listen to me. He came back and said, I've recorded a screenshot, but however, just stay with me. And that was a wonderful thing that you did, because I've done the same. And now when I watch my videos, rather than focusing on the graphics, I'm actually listening to the music. So it's a bit like saying, like, if you're going to listen to this piece of music, I'll just have a black screen, close your eyes, and listen to the music. And I've actually, some of the tunes that I listened to when I was recording this, I've heard things. This sounds spooky. I've heard things that I've never heard before in it, because it's so subtle. And just listening to the music rather than, whoa, look at the visuals. Because when you look at an arcade game, you tend to think of the visuals and the music's secondary to that. But because you, purely by chance and because you were too lazy, you just did the screenshot, that's actually worked out better.
Bloody hell. Can any more derogatory comments? Can you go now because you're lazy? Because you're, to be quite honest, you're dead on in the fact that if you don't have too much of a visual element, your ears, sort of like your senses pick up a little bit more. I've noticed that very early on when I was listening to soundtracks, I couldn't see the films that I was listening to, but I could listen to the music because the films were out of my age range. Right. So when I listen to the music, I'm picking up things that were not in that were there in the movie, but the movie's also got to remember it's got a voice track and it's got a sound effects track, so it booms out some of the more intricacies of things. So,
I know we're going off topic, but in fact, not necessarily. I would probably say if you were the programmer and then there was somebody who did the graphics and somebody did the music, probably the person who did the music gets the least recognition, because you just kind of take for granted. You think, oh, So anyway, without much further ado, what we're going to do now, we're using, I don't like using StreamYard, but it's easier for this kind of video. Obviously, StreamYard is absolutely pants when it comes to replicating sound. So by the time you watch this, hopefully you'll get a good representation of it, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to overlay it. Dale and I will listen. You'll probably not hear it that well because you're listening to it through StreamYard, but I will then overlay it properly so you're getting decent sound. So what I'm going to ask you to do, Dale, is I want you to just tell me what the game is. We'll play the music and then we'll just talk about it, and then it'll be my shot.
Yeah.
So right, if you can let me tee up. I'll probably, I don't know if I'll edit this or not. Video file. I do know when I do a video file, it's going to bloody there. Yeah, there you go. It keeps defaulting to fucking tap thingies, whatever it is. Why does it do that? List. There we go. Ah, fucking hell, Christ. Right. List. Right. Anyway, Dale, you can tell us what game number one's going to be, and hopefully I'll play the right clip. This is number 10.
So tune 10, which is to me an honorary mention, is a tune that blasted out and was always around in the arcades. It's a well-known racing game. You couldn't mistake it in the 90s. It's Daytona, USA.
Yeah, that's distinctive. I mean, it tells you right away what game it is.
Yeah. I mean, most of the tunes that I've chosen are ones where I remember hearing the tune, playing the game if I can get to it, because sometimes these would have been brand new ones. But the next day I was humming it, and I don't know why I was humming it. In fact, sometimes I was going, "Did I hear that yesterday? Where's that tune come from?" And it's just in my head. And that one was very prominent when it came to walking through an arcade, because there'd be like there'd be like 4 arcade machines joined together for this one, so it was blaring out. And I think it was a really big sort of like favorite for bowling alleys, where they got more space. You know what I mean? So,
you're right. I mean, it was hard. I mean, back in the day, especially in the sort of real golden age of video games, you had your Asteroids and Pac-Man and what have you. Every machine was like screaming out to get you to notice it. And the problem was, I mean, when you went in an arcade, you didn't really get to hear the sound because it was just a cacophony of sound, a wall of sound. Unless you played it in a chip shop or a sports centre, whatever. There was always certain games that were louder than others that seemed to kind of dominate. But yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I actually find that bit of music quite annoying. It's quite cheesy, but I think it was designed to capture your imagination. You went in, as you say, you couldn't miss the 4 big screens, and then when you had that noise, you had the cars racing around the track, and I mean that was one of the real jaw-dropping games when it came out, sort of kind of maybe 92, 93. It was like, holy shit, Sega constantly pushed boundaries. So for the purpose of what it intended to do, it caught your imagination, and it's quite a short piece of music. But it's would that be real instruments, or do you think would that have been sort of all digital? It did sound
by that point, I think you'll find that they were using like a form of MP3 file, because I remember it coming out on the Saturn, and they were actual tracks. On the Saturn CD, you could actually play the music off of a Saturn CD and listen to the music separately.
Yeah, like MP3s.
So, because it's 1994, so I think we're getting towards more, this is a whole band type thing. And if I remember rightly, I did see a smaller documentary that said they had to redo the whole of the music for the Western audience because it was all in Japanese or Chinese for its own, and it didn't make sense. Nobody really understood the language, so they had to redo the words, and that's where "Let's Go Away" comes from. Because I'm going, what does that mean? Let's go away? What? You're on a racetrack. What? It doesn't make much sense. But they had to do an English version, so
yeah. I know that was good first choice. Now I've got to say, obviously that is probably going to be one of the most high technical, from a most technical point of view, probably up there. I mean, some of my games, the quality is not particularly good, but it's not the quality, it's the music itself. And why
I can tell you now, all the other 9 are generated on hardware, so that's the only one.
Yeah. So anyway, good first one. Right, my first one is from it's a shoot 'em up. Now I think it's from a company called Taken. I think, not the Liam Neeson Taken, not the beat 'em up, Taken, and it's a jolly little tune, and it was ported to, it had unofficial ports to Atari ST and the Commodore Amiga, and it is Star Force. There you have it. What do you think of that?
Oh, I actually like the tunes from the middle onwards than I thought at the very beginning. I don't know what it was at the very beginning. It seemed like all percussion, drums,
Aye. The
all that
second
sort of
kind of
stuff.
main tunes, bit of percussion. Yeah.
When you got to the later sections, it was more innovative, I suppose, varied, that sort of stuff. But
It's
I'll tell you what, the first thing that happened to me as soon as the picture came up and the tune started, I thought, I know what period of time this is. And I was going, well, a lot of other arcade machines were using similar voices or similar.
I think Bomb Jack was the same company. It's very,
Yeah,
very Bomb Jack. I think that
got
came
you.
out possibly before Bomb Jack. I think to myself, if that was a Sid tune, it would have been David Whittaker that would have written it.
Yeah, yeah. So it's Tecmo, yeah. So as you were saying, so it's
Tecmo,
Tecmo,
sorry, yeah.
yeah. So, but I thought to myself, although they sound really jolly, I can imagine it's quite hectic on the screen, and that's what you want. I think from a particular music artist, what they were trying to do with this is you got to get your heart going. So it's got to be fast paced. So they recognize that this one has got to be not a slow piece; it's got to be fast, and then they work around that. So I think that was quite a nice tune. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Were you humming it when you first heard it?
I
When you
was humming it, yeah. And I
yeah,
was sorry when it ended.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, it's a you need. I'm not a fan of music generally in arcade games, apart from the term we're going to talk about. But when it's done right, it can really add to the ambience and atmosphere of the game. And that game, Star Force, is really jolly to play, and it's made even more fun with the music. It just makes you want to play it. So there we go. That's my number one. That is Star Force by Tecmo. Back to yourself for number 9.
Number 9. Yeah. So again, an honorary mention. Now I had trouble with this one because I'm going to mention the title in a moment. And most people are going to go, why did you choose this one and not an earlier one? And the game is Ghouls and Ghosts by Tamayoa Kawamoto.
you say about that. Absolutely. The only surprising factor is it's down as low on your list as it is.
Yeah.
But
And it probably makes you wonder what the first top 5 are. But the reason I chose Ghouls and Ghosts over Ghosts and Goblins, because Ghosts and Goblins is my favorite of the 2 games, is that I think Capcom's hardware probably was a little bit better, and so their sound hardware was a little bit better. So they started to things like reverb and echo and all of that sort of stuff. So when I'm listening to that tune, which by the way is a homage to the original by Ayaki Mori, it's got better instruments and more echo. It seems like you're walking through a graveyard. If you listen to the first one, it's a little bit harsher. It seems more plinky plonky, as my mum might say about music. So, I mean, can't fault the musical, artist on it. The person did Legendary Wings, Tiger Road, Black Tiger, 1943.
It's very, very distinctive Capcom. I mean, it'd be an absolute travesty if you didn't have a Capcom game in there. I mean, the thing is, there's so many good games. They're all phenomenal.
And like I say, the original musician on Ghosts and Goblins is equally as prolific. I mean, there's Gunsmoke, 1942, Sidearms, Trojan, Commando. I mean, if you look at all of these, they're quintessentially. I mean, most people will say, I can recognize a Capcom tune like that, and I think it's because of the hardware. But that one, I think that one fits a horror theme. I think it's quite mystery, quite eerie.
It suits the game to an absolute T. Yeah, no arguments in that one. Right, my number 9. Now it's I don't care if some people go, oh, that's not a game tune, that's an original piece of music. And it is an original piece of music, but it's still a tune for a game, and it fits the game perfectly. And you'll tell me what the program was. The theme tune is the Peter Gunn theme tune, and it's to a certain game, and I'll keep trying to talk while I'm working. It's a certain game by Sega, and it's called Spy Hunter. There you have it. I mean, that's to compare that with the one you just played. I mean, that was a very, very early game. And when I was listening to that, you can hear the sort of reverb, really some really acute little noises. But I mean, I'm sure if Lacosa was in here, he would be able to tell us exactly what type of organ that was. But it's quite literally somebody playing an organ with a bit of pitch bend going on towards the end there. But simple but effective. And I couldn't think of a better tune for that spy game.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I mean, it is one of the earliest Commodore 64 games that I ever played. The tune is on, you know, Peter Gunn is well known, but every time you hear it, you think spy. You know what I mean? It's one of those ones where you go, I don't know whether it's that underlying because that's all it is, repeated over and over and over again as an underscore. And it makes you think, yeah, I'm a secret agent undercover. You know what I mean? You know, and you've got that in the background. I'm sort of like creeping along. Nobody knows that I'm a spy type thing. You know, and then it's weird because as you get further into it, it goes into a more jazzy type thing. You know, and it's almost like it's a jazz piece, but I don't know many. And I think the organ that would probably be used would have been a Hammond organ, but it's one of those ones where they've used lots of effects to sort of like pitch bend it and so forth. So, but yeah, I could just imagine a piece band up in you know, on a plinth, you know, playing that in, you know, while you're being served drinks or something. Do you know?
Yeah, I mean, you can imagine if it was going to be a James Bond, you know, Sean Connery chasing somebody in his Aston Martin, whatever it was, and that getting played in a full scale orchestra, you know. But yeah, like I said, I know it's not, that wasn't written for that game. It was it's an original piece, but I just think that fits the game absolutely perfectly. So that was my number 9. That was Spy Hunter, and that was a Peter Gunn theme. And back to yourself, number 8.
Again, a difficult choice for mine, and number 8 is equally one that could have been in anybody's top 5, done by a prolific musician that we'll bound sure to hear across a little bit later on in my choices. But the musician is Hiroshi Kawaguchi, and the game is Space Harrier.
Get ready.
Probably could have done it been a wee bit longer, but apart from that.
Saki git.
If we've got any viewers still with us, thanks for hanging by. No, I mean, it's, you know what surprises me. I mean, it's a beautiful. Is that based? There's obviously a song, "Baby Love Sugar Babe." Is that based on that, or is it?
Well, you say that, but if you were to put that into notes, that sounds a bit like Blake Seven. Da, 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 da,
Oh,
da,
right,
da,
right. I'm not
right. So
yeah.
you could put it to anything, but the thing about this one is that the reason it's an honorary mention really than anything else is you're quite right. Is it spacey? There's a very good sort of like synth at the very beginning, but then it's more like a gallop. You know, you could almost imagine being on a horse and rushing forward. And I don't know if it's because of burnout or whatever, but when you look at the back history of that particular composer, that Hiroshi, he did Hang On, Enduro Racer. They're all racing or something coming at you, and I think that they're so good, all of these tracks, and great, because he probably knew more about that hardware and what the tunes were going to be put onto than anybody else, because he did so much of those System 16 and System 32 boards.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite what I found quite surprising. I mean, how long was that tune? What's it, about
God,
7 minutes or something?
yeah,
Something like
six
that.
or so minutes.
It's quite surprising to actually put a tune that length into an arcade game. I mean, is level 2 got a different music? See, I wouldn't know. Obviously, I wouldn't know.
The other thing about it is that the reason it's an honorary mention is I can listen to it. It sounds really good, but I don't like listening to it without the sound effects. I keep thinking, in my head, I can hear me firing shots and hearing that noise.
Yeah, that's what you need. That's what you need to remember, viewers, when you're listening to these tunes. There was sound effects over and above. Some of the early games on computers, you could either have sound effects or music, but arcades you had the sound. So if it sounds slightly strange, it's because you've not got the gunfire and all that kind of stuff that kind of adds to the ambience of it. But yeah, I mean, it's as I say, if that's just for the first level. The first level you can complete in probably a couple of minutes. So I would be surprised if you actually ever got to hear that in its entirety.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that was probably looped twice, but you're quite right. Even if you were to listen to it for the first loop, 7 minutes, 3 minutes, it would still be. You'd be surprised if you heard that end bit at the end. Or the 3/4 of the way onwards, I would say, is probably a news to everybody if you were just playing the arcade.
But it's nice. It's nice getting the opportunity just to sit and listen to music, which is great. Anyway, from that 7-minute behemoth, we're down to about a 20-second one from me. So I've played it not once but twice. I'm just going to get this teed up. It's just intro. Now, I've actually picked the first one and the sequel because they're so short. I'm going to count that as one choice. And even collectively, it comes to about 20 seconds anyway. And I says it's an intro to an Atari game and then the Atari sequel. And it's Gauntlet. Listen to the very end of this. You hear that? Spooky or what?
Yeah.
are short but sweet. I mean, you're going to struggle to find some finer little bits of music than that. That it absolutely captures the mood of the game, especially the second one, where you can see them standing in a maze about to get taxed with hordes of mutants, and you've just got this really spooky sound. I mean, it was, easily up there on a par with Ghosts and Ghouls, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't remember the first one had a little sample at the end, like you said, that little eerie piece. Gauntlet 2 for me always had that spooky ooh, at the end, which which I always heard, but I don't remember hearing the little sample over there. And the other eerie thing about that is, and I leave it to you, whether you want to play mine, but my next tune is exactly the same one, Gauntlet 2. So if you really want to, you can play it again, and it is just that, and it's not looped. It'll be about 10 seconds for you to play it.
Well,
so
absolutely, it deserves a second mention. Here we go. Right, let's get back into Dale's. That never gets boring, eh?
No, not at all.
I mean, even that picture of the sheer anger and sort of ferocity of all the four assailants about to charge in with their swords to mutilate all the sort of swarms that are coming from the pits of hell, and that is just it's probably one of the most perfect suited bits of sound.
And it wouldn't have been too far in the in the past that I was probably moving away from at the time, but Dungeons and Dragons the cartoon was about 1982, 83, and Gauntlet 2 is around about 83, 84. And when I see those pictures of the wizard and so forth, I instantly think of the cartoon. And then when I'm playing that game, I'm instantly going, yeah, look, we're in a tomb. I've got to get the food. I've got to be hungry, and I've got to shoot everything. It's like that. Your imagination fills in the blocks.
Yeah, I mean that little tune, that track sequence, just it dragged you across. Oh, what's this? Because interestingly, if you look at Gauntlet, when you first boot it up, it shows you like you get 100 points for killing the ghost level 1, you get 200 for ghost levels, and it gives you like a scoreboard, and there's no sound, and then it's only when it gets to the title screen, and you see the two of them, and in the background you've got these what look like something with the Evil Dead behind them. It scares the shit off us. But anyway, let's bring things upbeat slightly, from slaughtering hordes of minions from what do you call it? From the gates of hell to controlling a marble, and it's a bit mad, and that's why they called it Marble Madness. Excuse me. Yeah, I think you can tell that the musician was having fun when he was making that. He was just putting little bits and pieces. And I can actually imagine that getting played in an orchestra, and somebody's got the little flute and the little bells, ding 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 ding, like cymbals and what have you, a lot of percussion. Eh?
Yeah, I mean, it's a strange one because when you first came up and it was your choice, and I was just looking at it there, I was going, oh, he's chosen tune 2 because I know what tune 1 is, and then you joined in the others, and I was thinking, is anybody going to remember what tune 3 and 4 sound like? Because it's not that it's hard to get to; it's just that the music is very abstract. But
Yeah.
I think the idea here, from a musical perspective, is you're on a windy, geometrically awkward, weird track with a ball, and that means that the music has to be abstract as well, which is why you're going to get
Yeah.
weird percussion bits and little tinkery bits that you just hear in the background, and little, it's all.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be eerie and abstract, and that's because
Yeah.
the course is eerie and abstract. So it does
Yeah.
exactly what the job is supposed to. So.
Yeah, there's some really subtle little noises that I'd never really heard before until I actually recorded that, and I thought I really like that. I really like that a lot. So anyway, yeah, that was my number 7. So your number 6.
My number 6. Again, some people will think, why isn't this in my top 5? But you'll have to wait until you get to those 5, I'm afraid. But this one is an incredibly impressive piece. I think a lot of people will turn around and say it will be in their top 5. It's done by a composer called Masahiro Inaoi, but it's based on Bach's Toccata and Fugue in D minor, which means I think we all know that this game is gyrus.
instantly familiar. You play that to any kind of video gamer, that little tune, right away they'll know that was Gyrus by Konami. Yeah, cracking piece. Not much to really add to that. I mean, it's a famous piece, and it's quite simplistic. I mean, it's from 1983. I think it was probably early 1983. And again, it's a shoot 'em up, and I don't normally like music with shoot 'em ups, but that just really makes a game. And when you're listening to it, you can just see the little things swirling around and the little orbs coming towards you. It really adds to it. And, you know, two warps to Uranus never gets dull.
Yeah, and it's particularly that, you know, that I agree with shoot 'em ups. What tune do you put to a shoot 'em up? You know, there's sideways, there's singular screen, there's horizontal. Some go fast, some go slow. It must be quite difficult, but this one, it's the gyro aspect of it, plus I think even the shots sound like instruments, because even when you hear the end, it sounds very much like a drum and bass. It's not even Bach staccato anymore. That would have been the chant stage.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? But I can hear me going, you know, with that drummer bit going, and then of course it would go, and you're on to 3 warps, 2 warps, 1 warp.
Yeah,
and it just progresses and progresses and progresses. So obviously we all know it comes, that version is more from the album Sky 2, isn't it? Toccata in the album.
Oh,
Sky
yeah, it's
2,
one of my favourite kind of pieces.
And I believe that was only a couple of years earlier. So anyway, what more can I say other than I walk into an arcade, I hear that music, and I know Gyrus is in here. That's all I can say about it.
You'll go and seek it out. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Great choice for your number, whatever that was, number 6. Right. My number 6. Let me just get it teed up. It's one of my favourite shoot 'em ups. It's another shoot 'em up, and it's by Nichibutsu, I think it was, and I think it spawned a game called Hybris on the Amiga, and it's Terra Cresta. You can go first.
Wow. I was just saying, just thinking to myself, really, what a boppy number. And I can imagine me, it doesn't sound out of place in a shoot 'em up, but I was just at the end, I was going, was that a homage to Galaxian there? I'm pretty sure.
You get that on. Okay, it might have been actually. You get that on the Last Life. When you're on your last life, you get that little really upbeat little jingle.
I was just thinking when they threw that in, I was thinking, wow, that's nice, a nice little homage to a much earlier
you never
game,
know. You never know. I never really thought about it like that. And the bit at the end, that's a kind of boss battle type thing.
Right.
You can see it coming on. It's quite an ominous sound. But yeah, it's similar to kind of Star Force. It's just jangly and it just drags you along. You know, you wouldn't really think it would be suitable for a shoot 'em up. But again, it's part of the reason that Terra Crest is one of my favourite shoot 'em ups. I love it to bits. I think it's a great game, and the music really, really, really adds something to it.
Yeah, I was going to say the last thing about that is compared to some of the other music as well, I was more listening to the main track than the bass line, right, with that one. The bass line's a bit subdued and a bit boring on that one, even as a pace. But the actual main instruments that were playing,
melody,
melody, I actually thought was better than the bass line. And it's usually the other way around with me. It's like, oh, the bass line is driving it. But this one, I preferred the melody. So there you go. If that means anything to anybody.
Yeah, great little tune. Right, back to yourself, Mr. Delboy, and it's your number 5.
Again, some of these tunes for me are just the tune and not the game. For these particular ones, the tune has to be quite pertinent for me to be able to hum it when I move away from the actual game itself. It'll be like an earworm. Yeah, like an earworm. So this is done by a composer called Kazuko Umainyo. And he also did Space Invaders 95 and Space Invaders 91. But for this particular one, it's Puzzle Bobble.
Yeah, cheers for that earworm, you bastard.
Yeah, because like I say, sometimes it's not about the game; it's the tune, and it's whether I'm humming it the next day. And for some particular reason, I didn't particularly like the game in the arcades. I just hum that tune all the time.
It's, you know what? I mean, I'm not as people know that watch the channel, I'm not a big, massive fan. But it's not really so much I don't like cutesy games. There's a certain game I don't like just because we're not going to talk about it. But that tune's a guilty pleasure of mine. I remember the first time I got a Neo Geo emulator and I loaded that game up, and it just put a big swell in my face. You get You hear the wee quack quack, and it's like little dinosaurs talking. It makes you smile. It makes you happy. It's a really upbeat little game, and it's a great little tune.
And it was my fourth Neo Geo cartridge for my Neo Geo
Ah,
system.
yeah.
So that's probably another reason why it's an earworm for me, because those cartridges were damn expensive. My God, they were as expensive as the damn console. So yeah.
Yeah, I do like that. I never even thought about that one, but that's a great little tune. Right, from cutesy and cuddly to downright sinister and nasty, and I'm not talking about Dell. This is my number 5, and it's a slightly well-known game called R-Type. There you have it, the mighty R-Type.
Yeah. And it's a cracking one as well. I mean, obviously, when I was listening to that, I kept hearing the explosion noise, because that's what I'm used to when I was watching your
Yeah.
Sunday streams and watching you get killed. Now, that's not to say that I haven't seen stage 2 and stage 3, because you definitely have got those on the Sunday streams before anybody starts mentioning it. But that's a quintessential tune that I recognize, and I do remember hearing that walking past the machine, to go to other machines, back in the day. So yeah, cracking, really.
Yeah, I mean, and the second, I actually prefer the second one, I think, even more. It's just, obviously, it's a very Geiger-esque, alien, disgusting kind of level, and the music really kind of sounds slightly Egyptian to me, actually. Aztec-y. You can
Yeah.
imagine the Aztec challenge having that. If it was a kind of remake, they'd have that kind of music. But yeah, just again, it fits the game perfectly. Maybe it doesn't fit the game perfectly, but it certainly makes playing the game all the more enjoyable. I think
Yeah.
it gels really well. So yeah, that's my number. That's my number 5. So back to yourself, Squire. Number 4 for you.
Number 4. Okay, so when I was thinking about these, it was more about, does this tune match the game? And I don't think that anybody could turn around and say that this tune does not match the game. It's by a composer called Mataki Furugawa. But that won't mean too much to anybody. But the game is Sunset Riders, and it's the attract screen music.
It's just about the perfect tune for a game that's about cowboys and what have you. That I think I've only played the game maybe a couple of times. I wasn't really familiar with that tune, but that is excellent. I mean, it's so high quality. It's
well, yeah. I mean, you just listen to the
perfection.
guitar at the end, and you go, "Is that actually somebody playing the guitar or not?" I mean, it's only a chord, I know, but the thing is, if you were to actually take somebody away and not look at this and say this is an arcade music thing, and somebody was to play that, they'd turn around and say that's a Western.
Yeah,
The whole thing is a Western game, and if you actually listen to the tracks in the game as well, they're all of equal quality. They're quintessentially that's a Western, and it sounds Western music, and that's why I have to put it in there, because sometimes the game has got to marry the sound, and this one definitely does.
No, 100%. So when did that game come out?
Oh, it did actually have the actual year on the screenshot.
Oh, did it? Was it 1987 maybe?
Somewhere it's late 80s, I think. I don't think we're talking 90s yet. So,
no, that's perfect. You know, I mean, that could have quite easily been in some 1987 Western video. You know, easily. Superb. Yep. Right. Back to myself. Number 4. Again, talking that it's a it's a shoot 'em up, and it's made. It's just it fits the game perfect. And yeah, it's a game that we've already had, and it's by Konami, and it's a Mighty Gyrus. Yeah, if there's a tune that makes you want to play a game more than that, then I'd like to know what it was.
Like I say, what more can I say other than what we had before? It's just pure classic, and it makes me want to put another coin in now.
Yeah. I know we've talked about it already, but yeah, obviously it's a classical piece of music. There's a reason it's still popular. Well, I don't know, 200 years old. How old is it? I don't know when it is. Who wrote it again?
Bach.
Bach.
Bach's Toccata and Fugue.
When would that be?
Oh, Johann Sebastian Bach, 18, something or other, 17, something or other. I mean, I studied classical music, but it is like 40 years ago. So remembering all the dates and everything, it's a bit tricky. But yeah, we are talking
So when you studied music, it was 150 years ago. Now it's 200 years ago. Eh?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it gets closer. I'm getting closer. Yeah, to that.
So anyway, fantastic. Right, okay. Yeah, for you eagle-eyed viewers, you might see something slightly different. This has indeed been done over a couple of days. So anyway, right, 3 to go, folks. Over to you, Dale. You're number 3.
Yeah, so it's getting a bit tricky now because we've got to come to the sort of like 3 that you think are absolute stunners. I think I've chosen a pretty good one, definitely a recognized one. So you can come back to the end of me on this one, but this one is the main title from, the main level 1 from Golden Axe.
Yeah, apologies there. I forgot to add the eye candy for the ladies there, mate. But they got the last 30 seconds off us anyway.
I was going to turn around and say, I can't see your head bobbing. What's going on?
Yeah, I take it that looped twice, did it?
Yes, it does. Yeah, I think
yeah.
most of the stuff that I did looped twice.
Yeah. I'll be honest. That was. If there'd been 15, it would have probably been in my top 15. It did get an addition, and I chose to leave it out. And I think the main reason being is I found it a tad repetitive. I mean, it's very distinctive. It's that opening sort of bar. It's instantly recognisable as Golden Axe. Am I right in thinking that the hardware that they used for that machine was using the Mega Drive, because you could really imagine that was a Mega Drive sound, wasn't it?
It is a similar chip, but that chip was used in quite a few different boards. I think what they do is they tweak those chips to be slightly enhanced, because Sega's games of that particular era all sound sort of the same. So I think basically they have the same sort of like frequency, and the instruments are sort of the same. They then alter certain ones to be very prolific. For me, that tune was done by someone called Yao Takada. Now, when I think to Golden Axe, I go, I know those tunes, absolutely brilliant. And when I was looking at what this guy's done, I don't think I could remember the tunes to any of the other games he did. Now, the ones he did are Gain Ground. Can't remember the tune to that. Flashpoint. Can't remember the tune to that.
Can't even picture the game.
E-SWAT. I might just be able to remember that one, and Columns 2, and that was it. And yet he did such a great job with Golden Axe. It's like,
so he didn't even do like Alien Storm then.
Nope.
No, surprising.
So Sega had quite a few different musical artists, and it's strange that particular one did. He was sound designer on a number of things, but he didn't do that many tunes. So that one is just so nice. It's such
So did these other games? Did they come out after?
Slightly, some before, some after. This one, that was a 1989 game. I think they were some were 1990, some were 1988. I think you're talking around that period. But the thing that I like about that one is that there's a bass line and there's a melody line, and I can distinguish between the two, and there's a nice drum beat. The thing I don't like about it is I don't think it suits the game too much. If I think of Conan, if you were to put Conan in the middle of that, it would look out of place. It was boppy, but it drives you on in the game, so it works. And I went away humming. That tune. So that's why I put it third, because it's not characteristically suiting the game, but it's such a great tune, and it's not that bad either. You know what I mean?
I would disagree, actually. I think it suits the game really well. Axes and what have you.
I suppose it's because I think more Chivalry and Excalibur, and I'm thinking more then of those types of tunes. If you've ever watched an old Camelot type film or something, they're more like Robin Hood type tunes. That and this is a sword and sorcery, but it doesn't invoke sorcery to me. Do you know what I mean?
But yeah, it's a classic. I'm sure if you were to have a little quiz and play 5 seconds of that, instantly recognisable. So I'm not cracking third choice. Like I said, that would have gotten my top 15, and it narrowly just missed out. Right, my third place bronze medal. Now, I was humming and hawing between this and a game that you've already picked, and I've gone for its dad. And it's probably no surprise. It's the mighty Ghosts and Goblins. Yeah, you are short and sweet. Now you mentioned the Ghouls and Ghosts. You said that the instruments were a bit more refined and less kind of tinny, which I do agree with. But I think out of probably all the games, and probably, but even including the other two that you've not yet seen, I would say that piece of music fits the game absolutely perfectly. I
Yeah.
mean, it sounds, and I'd be interested to know if this was influenced by Defender of the Crown. It's all about chivalry and guys with armor. Ding, ding, da, ding, ching, ching, ka-ching. It's really clanky, metallic sound. I mean, it suits the game. Well, you could say it suits the game from the perspective that it's a guy, a knight in shining armor.
Yeah.
But I think it's. I can remember the very first time I mean I played it on the C64. I did everything backwards back, when I was a lad, because we didn't have arcades really in Scotland, we did, but my mum and dad never took me to them. So a lot of the arcade games I played the C64 version. I never knew what the arcade version looked like, but I went on a camping trip up to a place called Kingoosey up north, and there was it was like a one pony town village, and there was a cafe, and we camped, and then we went to the cafe in the morning to get like a fry up, and I remember hearing that noise, and I'm like, what the hell's that? And there was this little kid playing Ghosts and Goblins, and I went up and I had a look, and he had like his extra men just went. Brrr. He had so many extra. He obviously, because there's nothing else to do, this little kid was just absolutely caning Ghosts and Goblins. But wow, what a game! What a game! And it's still one of my most played arcade games. I'm absolutely pants at it. I mean, it's brutally hard. I can probably get further in Ghouls and Ghosts. A brutally hard game, but an absolute Stonewall classic. And I think the music's great.
Yeah. And pretty much you mirror sort of my own, because as a game, Ghosts and Goblins and Ghouls and Ghosts. Ghosts and Goblins is my most favorite. Ghouls and Ghosts I wouldn't even touch. Ghosts and Goblins, thumbs up. I chose Ghouls and Ghosts as a tune because it actually has that same tune but slowed down with different instruments. That's all. And I just thought the organ sounds like an organ. It's got some reverb and echo that make it sound eerie. Ayako Mori, who did the Ghosts and Goblins one, I think did a fantastic tune. And you'd have to think that the person that redid it, who did a homage, must have thought so also, because they've hardly changed it at all. Ayako Mori also did Gunsmoke, 1942, Sidearms, and Trojan. And I
Yeah,
love Gunsmoke. 1942 doesn't have too much of a tune in it, but those tunes I remember better than the person who did the Ghouls and Ghosts tune, who did Tiger Road, Black Tiger. I recognise Gunsmoke and 1942 more than the other one. So
yeah,
there
yeah.
is a pedigree here. I just think
It's
there's just a couple of years between the two systems, and one's got a better soundboard than the
mhm.
other one. That's pretty
I,
much
I
it.
think the opening sort of 2 or 3 bars of that tune that we just listened to, oh, excuse me, it's like the big clanking sound, ka-ching! And you get that same thing when you see in Gunsmoke, when you see the guy that, like, this is a picture of the guy that you're trying to capture. It's like he's kind of like he's like loading the gun, and it's just got this metallic clanging sound. It's so distinctive, and
Yeah.
it just boom, within 2 seconds, Ghosts and Goblins, you know what you're
Yeah.
getting.
But just to end, all I was going to say was the main instrument, and I'm only guessing this, in Ghosts and Goblins is supposed to be a harpsichord.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah, spot on.
does it sound really like a harpsichord? And I think it sounds synthetic harpsichord, where the other one it's a synthetic organ, but it definitely sounds like
Mm.
an organ. And that's really it's just that. It's one has got the same tune in it but slightly slower,
Newer
and the other one,
technology, yeah, better technology, slightly probably crisper. I wouldn't say samples as
The
such,
Ghosts
but
and if there's a choice
yeah,
between the two games, Ghosts and Goblins every
every
time.
time, yeah,
And of
yeah.
course, you all know that I could destroy you at it, but we still have to prove
Well,
that,
we've
don't we?
still to
And
see the
I
proof.
and
We've
I
still to see
still
the
need to
proof.
do the proof. So that's on me,
Yeah,
and it will be coming up.
arcade club this year.
There we go.
You and me. It's going to be on a video. You guys can decide who's the better player. Hey, anyway,
No
that
pressure,
bombshell. Number 2.
From me, isn't it?
Silver position.
Yeah, so this is from me, isn't it? Yep.
Yeah.
So this one is going to divide people, but I've chosen this because, as I've said before, if it makes me hum the tune when I go, if it suits the game, if it basically pushes you on in the game, then it's a winner in my eyes. And this one was one that I heard first on the Super Nintendo, and then I saw it actually in the arcades, and I just think it's such a it's so great. So without much of further ado, it's the main stage 1 theme tune to Peridius.
3 words: bat shit mental.
Do you want me to say anything about it, or did you want to do? Or do you want to? Should we hear what you think about it?
Yeah, well, I just want to say something. It's I've never actually. I don't think I've ever really played the Peridius games. I know what they are. It's like, and it just dawned on me: is it a play on the word? It's a parody of Gradius.
Yeah, that's
Peridius,
it.
parody.
So it's Gradius, Peridius,
Yeah,
Parodius.
Just when I was sitting staring at the screen, I thought it's a parody of Gradius.
That's right.
The reason. It's actually a bizarre concept that somebody brought out Nemesis, Gradius, depending on what part of the world you live in, and then somebody obviously thought, "Oh, wouldn't that be hilarious if you're shooting pigs with bells and you've got to kill a cat at the end? Don't be ridiculous." And so obviously somebody made it, and somebody thought that's actually bloody good. But the fact that it was probably did Peridius ever get a release in outside Japan? I'd be very surprised if it did.
I don't like I said, I saw it in when one of these arcade meets like you do. There was one in Milton Keynes, but it's a foreign game. I don't think it actually got a North American or a European or whatever.
Yeah,
that's why I said I saw it on a SNES. And basically, it's one of those ones where I was going to rent it and then record it. Sorry, I shouldn't say things like that, but copied it and then took it back, and it was my most played game that weekend.
Yeah,
not much more that I can say other than the guy who did it, Kazuki Marakota. He also did Contra, Nemesis, Gradius, Top Gun, and Metal Gear for the MSX. Metal Gear for the MSX, a very early one.
So did he do the music for Gradius then?
Yep, as well, and Nemesis and the Peridius range. So, and the thing about it is the tune doesn't really match Pirates, right? Okay, you could actually use that tune for Spinning Plates, Chinese Juggler. You could almost put it as the music in Generation Game, where Bruce Forsyth turns around and says, "You've now got to make a cake in 3 minutes." And he's going around all the contestants. You could have that music in the background because it drives you on. It's like 3 minutes to go. It's just doing it. That's why it just suits the game. And because it's so weird in its instruments, cutesy. It sounds
the guy,
cutesy.
he was having fun. I think to myself, if that was a Sid tune, it'd probably been a Ben Dalglish track. That's the kind of thing that he would do. He just liked to experiment and have fun with instruments.
But I was definitely humming that tune when I finished playing that game.
Right, if you're not going to be humming that tune, you're going to be humming my next pick. There's not many games. In fact, this is probably the one game that I played because of the music, and then over time I got to love the game. But this was going to be my number one because it's one of my favourite games, and it was closely edged out. I thought, well, it wouldn't really be fair. To my mind, there's only going to be a number one, and it is in number one place. But this second game, to my mind, this would be my personal favourite. But I think I've got them in the right order, and I'll keep waffling while I just mount the video file. Let's come out of that. And yeah, it's you play the part of Agent Albatross, and it's the absolutely stonkingly brilliant Rolling Thunder. If there's ever a tune that's going to make you want to play the game, that is it. That is. I'll let you go first, actually.
I can't fault it. Definitely a top tune. I actually rank that above your Spy Hunter. because where I consider Spy Hunter to be a tune that would be great as a title tune to a TV series, spy series, I consider this the perfect music as the instrumental music in a sequence that
Oh
was
yeah, yeah,
actually
yeah.
in it. It's got a marimba beat. It's got this sort of 60s Austin Powers type thing. In fact, I could actually turn around and think that would be the perfect music if they made the milk tray guy turn into an actual TV series. That music would suit it really well, where he's going through dozens and dozens of villains and shooting past them and all of that sort of stuff. Fantastic track, and suits it down to the ground. It actually suits the game.
Yeah.
It really, really does to the T, and drives you forward. And that's what the game's supposed to do.
Definitely. I
Drive
mean,
you forward.
it's just dum 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 and then it
Yeah.
reaches the crescendo, and it's just, I mean, it's an actual standalone, wonderful piece of music. I would love to,
Yeah.
I would love to hear an orchestra play that.
Yeah.
That would really be something.
Like I said, I can't fault that one, matey. Yeah.
Yeah, if Chris Abbott's watching this, get it done, Chris. Although there's probably a few copyright hoops to jump through to get that with Namco.
Yeah, that was Namco, wasn't it? Yeah.
And you know what? That was, as I said, it was the music that drew me in, and then I actually found out that I used to watch my mate play, and I never played it. My mate used to play it, and I always remember thinking like the graphics for the main character looked a bit naff. I mean, he had a little sort of like the polo neck, and he had big lanky legs, and he kind of strutted about in his high heels. But the more you play it, it's like a kind of parody of the old spy movie. It's brilliant.
The thing that's weird about it for me as well, though, is just going on a sidestep really to the follow-up, Rolling Thunder 2. I can't remember any of the tunes in that game, and yet you put this one on, and instantly I'm taken back, and that's the game.
The thing is that the level, I mean, I've reached level 3. Have I gone beyond that? I've reached level. I may have actually reached the end of level 3. Where you've got the cats that jump out and little dwarfs, little kind of zombie things. But the music on the other levels is fantastic. Obviously, level 1 is the one everybody knows because it's the level 1. But yeah, it doesn't have a weak track. And of course, the piece de resistance is when you die and you just get
Oh yeah.
And of course, when you get to the end of level 1, you get the it's like the guy, you can imagine Bela Lugosi up there in the tower playing the big church organ. It's brilliant. Even if she has got an extremely pointy nose. Your girlfriend. But absolutely awesome one. Absolutely awesome one. So anyway, listen, it just leaves, we're now in the gold medal position. We're going to have your number 1.
My number 1, yes. I don't think you can get more distinguished a person than the composer of this, Hiroshi Kawaguchi. Now, that's going to give the game away, but I remember that anybody, when we're talking about this particular game, it's divisive on which one is the best tune. For some people, I'll be turning around and saying, no, that's not the best tune. This is the best tune because this has got multiple tunes and you were able to choose which tune you wanted to have for the whole of the game. So what is that game? You're going to be now listening to my favorite track from the game, Outrun, and its magical sound shower.
Well, can I just interject and say I've picked exactly the same game as you? So good minds think alike. Yeah, I mean, what can we say? Listen, what can we say? We're not going to. I know we did it with Gyrus, but we're not going to play. I don't know how long your Outrun music is, but
I think it loops twice, just like the
mine goes on for quite a bit. But we'll go with your one. So let's take it away, and then we can discuss.
Well, the nice thing about this one is you can sort of fade it if it just gets too much.
This is Outrun. Yeah, what can we say, eh?
Wow, like I said, there are people that say Magical Sound Shower is the #1 tune in that game, which are correct, and there's all the others that are wrong. That's all I
Absolutely,
can
yeah.
sort of like say about that
Yeah.
particular tune.
I'm glad I picked the same one because it could have got turned a bit nasty. You know, we wouldn't want that. It could have came to blows, but and if we had picked different tunes, it would have gone on for another half an hour. But yeah, I mean, it's Outrun was one of the probably the first game that you didn't have to imagine playing the part of, oh, you're in charge of a submarine and you're in an alien environment. This thing just had all the bells and whistles. It had what was then a massive screen. I mean, I don't know how big the Outrun screen was.
Yeah,
That big.
I've
It
been
was
trying
huge.
to think myself, whether
Yeah,
whether
it
I
was.
was in the sit-down version or a stand-up. I can't even remember whether the sit-down one was the first one I saw or a stand-up one. So
I mean, I've got my 52-inch TV there. I mean, I don't know, was it that size? I have no idea. I don't know how big it was, but it was probably actually a bit smaller than we remember. Like a lot
yeah,
of things. Anyway, but yeah, it had the big screen. It had the stereo sound. You had a mini Ferrari sitting. It flung you from left to right. You had force feedback. It was a beautiful sunny day. You had a beautiful blonde girl sitting in the Ferrari with you, and you're driving along. And you've got the calypso music, and of course, what you didn't get when you just listen to music, you don't get the
yeah.
that just added to it. That's interesting, actually. That's not part of the music. That must have been the sound effects, then, eh?
Think it, yeah. And
Yeah.
I think the only time the ocean's in the actual tune is Passing
Was
Breeze, but I'm not, or Splash Wave. One of
right,
those
right, right,
two, you
right,
see.
right. Possibly, yeah. But it's. I think. I don't think you could really pick. I don't
But
think
isn't it
there's
really
really.
weird that it's a Caribbean type tune? That's the first thing
Hmm.
that comes across to me. And the steel drums is the main instrument, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what it is, steel drums, right? But you can hear the bass line. There is an
Oh
actual
yeah, yeah.
double.
It's very distinct.
Double bass in the background,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But the main tune that we play at the beginning, that turns into the bass line with the double drums. The steel drums go over the top with a totally different tune.
Mm-hmm,
That's
mm-hmm.
how it works in that game. And I'm going, every time I listen to that tune, I think of an undulating road. I don't know
Yeah.
why.
Oh,
I
aye,
just
aye,
think of an
aye.
undulating road with a coast, and I don't know why. So it
Aye.
must be very iconic.
Well,
It must be.
anytime I'm on the motorway coming up from Birmingham or wherever, and you're on an open motorway, you can't help but just visualise Outrun music when you're
Yeah.
overtaking lorries.
Pass by you, Laurie.
You need to always remember you've only got one life in this one, though, folks.
Yeah.
So yeah, drive sensibly. So anyway, yeah, there we go. That is Dale and myself have given you the quintessential top 20 arcade game tracks ever. That is, it's not open for debate. Obviously not. We've picked the defining game. You've heard it here. So yeah, I just really want to say thanks to Dale for joining me in this. I think it's always much more fun when you get somebody else in, bit of debate going there. You know, as you say, yeah, it's just it makes it much better. So I think let us know what you think of this. I always enjoy doing these videos. I will do a podcast version because this is going to lend itself. Apart from obviously the ladies out there that want the eye candy, obviously, but there are podcasts available for the blokes. Yeah, postcards are available. Details down below. And Dell does have an OnlyFans page, mate. If you want to stick your OnlyFans URL down below, we'll get that sorted out. But yeah, let us know what you think of this. Was it good? Was it shite? Let me know. Yeah, if there's positive feedback, then we may come up with something else. The top Mega Drive games, whatever music type thing. Let us know. Until next time, guys. As always, thank you very much for watching.
Bye.